Our next presenter is Shubham Sah. Shubham lives in Waukee and attends Waukee High School. The title of his project is ISF Robotics.
Good morning. My name is Shubham Sah, and I'm excited to present to you my project, Indu Sah Foundation, or ISF Robotics. Today, let's begin with a quote from Herbert Hoover. "My country owes me nothing. It gave me, as it gives every boy and girl, a chance. It gave me schooling, independence of action, and opportunity for service and honor." This chance that those like Herbert Hoover were given, they've used to build this country to its greatness that it is today. Herbert Hoover, with this chance, he has made many domestic relief efforts, such as in economics, in humanitarian ones, with economics, with welfare, health, and also his efforts during the Great Depression. But this chance, it's a privilege. And billions of people in countries across the world do not get this chance because it comes with education and opportunity. And Herbert Hoover, with this chance, he also looked beyond the U.S. to his international efforts in China during the Boxer Rebellion, in Europe with his relief efforts after the war. And following into his footsteps, I also look beyond to my home country of Nepal, which has suffered from this lack of chance. Nepal is riddled with so many different problems, from economics to political to governmental, but at the core of the problem that is stagnating their growth is their educational crisis. Studies have shown that education is one of the biggest indicators for a country's growth and success. In Nepal, it suffers from a lack of funding, with experts saying that Nepal needs to increase its education budget by double just to get close to the quality of education that it needs to provide. And due to this lack of funding, it's difficult for them to provide those teacher salaries, which has led to over 65,000 teacher vacancies. And for these teachers that are there, it's difficult for them to get those resources to provide that quality education. And that has led to a lot of system-wide failure. As you can see, 52% of students were marked non-graded in the secondary education examination, meaning more students failed than passed. And with this lack of quality education, it's problematic for them to complete their education, as only 27% of students were able to complete secondary school. Nepal is also a host of many other problems, ranging from child labor crisis, with over 1.1 million kids sacrificing their education because they have to support their families. And also with poverty, because families are not able to have those means to send their kids to schools and pay those fees. And even getting to school is a problem. In my own experience growing up in Nepal, it was difficult getting to school because I had to walk through miles of mud, gravel, dirt, just to get there. But this is some of the best case scenarios, with some students having to traverse massive rivers on very unstable zip lines just to get there. But even in school, it's difficult for comprehension. Because of the over 120 different diverse languages there, it's difficult for them to learn if they're not taught in their native language. So to combat these issues, I looked upon the methodology of providing self-reliance and self-agency, much like Herbert Hoover did in his relief efforts. As he says, the basis of successful relief in national distress is to mobilize and organize the infinite number of agencies of self-help in the community. This idea of self-help, providing the means to the community and the people to achieve self-success and sustainable community growth, is what I want to give to the kids and students in Nepal. And this brings me to my robotics initiative. So you may be asking, why robotics? Herbert Hoover himself, he was an engineer. He understood the importance of engineering and innovation in a community's growth. As he says, through the engineering process where it goes from ideas and concepts to reality and products, and how that creates jobs and homes, and how it elevates the standards of living and adds to the comforts of life. He coined this as the engineer's highest privilege. And this is the privilege that I want to give to kids through my own expertise of robotics and my 8 years in STEM. I want to give them this privilege. In this project, I want to provide free, engaging STEM learning to underserved kids in Nepal and create a foundation for STEM leaders for sustainable impact and community in Nepal. So as the engineering design process goes, start first with the criteria and constraints. I wanted this project to have a comprehensive STEM curriculum that's engaging, informative, and fun. I wanted it to be open to anyone, free of cost, and I wanted it to be able to do at their homes, at their own convenience, and I wanted it to be taught with simple English and Nepali to get over those language barriers. For the success of this project, I recognized that I needed a strong and dedicated group of people. With me serving as the project lead, my uncle, Dr. Vijay, as our advisor, and 2 volunteers, the camp mentors, Nikhil and Abhishek, we made this project a reality. This brings me to the project itself. This project is run under a nonprofit organization that I set up in the United States called the Indu Sah Foundation. Our foundation is for providing better healthcare and education for underserved communities in Nepal, and it is named in honor of my late grandmother. This project process began in 2 phases. First phase was the planning and foundation, the recruitment process, and then that shifted to the actual learning through STEM virtual classes that I would teach this curriculum with. This leads me to phase 1, which was from July to August, which is the foundation part. Recruiting volunteers and students, we used social media posts, interest forums, and for students themselves, we talked with principals at these schools to get this program to their kids. Another major development in this was the curriculum itself. With my own robotics experience and the connections I have with engineering mentors, I created a curriculum that would be cohesive and comprehensive to give them all those STEM topics and learning they needed. But things usually don't go the way you want them to. So a few roadblocks that I had in this phase was when I reached out to those principals, the schools were right in the midst of their exam season, so I had to postpone these camps to a month later to account for that. Another roadblock was just getting kids excited about this, because this is a very new thing and kids don't understand the possibilities and the benefits of robotics. So even getting the principals on board was difficult. So congregating with my team, we found that having informational sessions where we would take a group of students and delve very deeply into how robotics can impact their life was the most successful. But it was still difficult since they still didn't understand it. But through this, we got 10 extremely dedicated and passionate kids for this program. Next, phase 2, which ran through September and November. This was the 8 weeks virtual classes of 40+ hours of teaching, where I taught engineering, programming, and all the other STEM topics, and applying them through personal projects and the projects and challenges that I assigned them, with coding challenges, CAD, modeling, engineering challenges. And we had classes twice every week, with Friday being the class for learning through presentations, through quizzes, through tests. And then Saturday was the application part, into their personal projects and the challenges that I gave them. As you can see here, these are some of these virtual meetings. But, as fate would have it again, a few roadblocks. The problem with this was the virtual teaching itself. It was difficult to keep the kids engaged in what I was teaching them, especially with the complex lessons. So I had to be adaptable. I had to change some of the curriculum to make it more simpler and easier to understand. And also, since the kids were in a very, very remote village it's called Madhepura, it was very difficult to get shipping companies to send technological needs to them. So we had to get pretty creative. In the coding challenges that I gave them, they would do all their programming coding on their notebooks, and the CAD modeling they would also do in notebooks. But it was an opportunity for them to explore creativity and enthusiasm for this project. And another roadblock that happened was the 12-hour time zone differences. And I had to wake up very early mornings to make sure that the kids were learning at a time when they were free, awake, and active. And this brings me to, what did they learn? In my perspective, the thing that I'm just so in awe of what these kids accomplished is their personal projects. First, to the right, you can see this is an old CD disc that was turned into a solar panel by one of the kids using very minimal equipment and wires. In the middle, you can see it's a HTML project where a kid made a website that would be able to do financial calculations. And on the right, we had a group of students that were interested in improving the pollution and trash problem in their local rivers. So I walked them through the chemical process of filtering and distilling water, as you can see in that separation over there. And they learned a lot of technical aspects, like engineering, the scientific method, programming, mechanical systems, electricity and circuits, a lot of that robot information, and the renewable energy application aspect. And in my experience, I've seen that they grow even farther beyond that. I've seen them grow as leaders. I've seen kids step up, leaders in their group. They've practiced effective communication, collaboration, problem solving in their projects, and these skills they will take on for the rest of their lives. And this project has been like the most fulfilling and most fun thing I've ever done in my entire life. And it's something that I want to keep doing for the rest of my life. And I think this is a foundation for something so much greater. Which brings me to the future. The future is, after they've already got this learning, I want to create this robotics team so I can get even more hands-on experience with robotics and learning about this. Right now I'm working with local schools and robotics teams and gotten donated parts, and I'm working with a local nonprofit to get laptops donated that I will be sending to the students this December for this robotics team through a volunteer personally delivering them. And this project, as it's being one of the first of its kind, it is the stepping stone into the STEM community that I want to create. I want it to be from person to person, the community to community, village to village, create this chain reaction effect where you have more and more kids involved in STEM and using it to their advantage in their own lives and in the improvement of their communities. And the main message of this project is to give them that chance that Herbert Hoover was talking about, that chance for education and opportunity. And if Herbert Hoover was here to see this, he'd be very proud of the accomplishments and the things that they have achieved, just like I am. And I just cannot wait to see what they do with the rest of their time. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
How many students were taking these classes, and what age group are we looking at?
So right now, since it was difficult getting kids involved, we got 10 because I, as a student myself, I don't have time to be able to teach as many kids. I wanted this to be a foundation I do for later. But the kids were aged from 5 to 14. Any other questions?
Thanks so much, very interesting and inspiring. So how many sessions were you able to have with these kids?
So through the 8 weeks, 2 each week, that was about 16. But there was also other days where they wanted to know about something, where I sent them a video about something I saw. It was really cool that I wanted them to see. But it was 16 formal classes, but there was also a lot of extra information, things that I've shared with them.
Thank you.
When did you move to the United States?
When I was 7,
7.
7 or 8.
When did you first hear about Hoover?
It was actually last year. Well, I've always known about him through like school, learning through history classes, but through this program I really understood like how much of an impact he's had, as he's the great humanitarian. And I've also heard that he's been nominated for like 5 Nobel Prizes, which is just insane. And he's really inspiring in how he relates to this project.
Excellent presentation. Good job.
I appreciate you walking us through the process of how you had to adapt some of your curriculum, based on student knowledge. I'm just a little curious, like, how did you create the initial curriculum, with all the different topics to choose from? How did you decide on those specific areas of focus? And then were there some that you found kids really wanted to go deeper into? Like, were some more popular than others?
So the curriculum was based on my own experiences and how I learned about it. And it was first with like simple topics, which is very simple mechanical things in engineering, just the engineering design process. And then the application of how they can take it to other things. But some of the things that they really latched onto was the idea of impacting their community. As we looked into renewable energies, they found that as a way to create something that they really enjoyed with the limited resources they had, as you saw with the little CD solar panel. But.
Thank you.
I probably have a ton of questions I could ask you, but I'll try to keep it short.
Keep them coming.
How did the mechanics work? Like, did everybody have their own laptop, or how did you communicate with each individual student?
So as I said, the technology used was very difficult to work with, but it was, some of the kids did have their own laptops, they worked from their own homes, but we would have most of the kids congregate in one house during each class, but since they didn't have access to those, it usually be on a phone, where they'd set it up, showing everybody, and I'd be teaching them through the Google Meet.
Okay, cool. And then it was very interesting that you're programming on pencil and paper. I do that myself in my own classes. So what language were you teaching them?
HTML and a lot of block programming, just to understand the mechanics of being really specific in how you program to make a robot do something.
Okay. And then did they have robots or?
That's what I'm getting to them this December. It was just difficult to get them over there, as I said, with the shipping companies. But now I have an opportunity with someone that's heading back to Nepal, and just sending with him was just really easy.
And what type of robots are you sending over there? Is
So,
that a kid?
in my STEM learning, I latched onto Lego Robotics. That was like the biggest way, because it was all, like, you could make literally anything you wanted. And I wanted to give them that opportunity. So working with local robotics teams, these robot parts that they'd overgrown, so they donated them over. Just these little Lego robots with these little controllers, but it's the possibility is just endless with them.
Thank you.